Now, from here to there, you're on a journey. Whilst you're there, whether it's in Saudi Arabia or it is in Europe, you are still on a journey until such time as you find the job. Once you found a job, you've written a contract. Now, you intend to make this place your home. Though it is a temporary home, it's still home. Your journey ends. Once you've made the contract, you're no longer on a journey. You're no longer on a trip. You've now committed yourself to stay and to live here. Similarly, a person who goes to study, they may go to America to study or to England to study, until they arrive and now they're setting up what is like home. There, they can shorten their prayers. But once they're set up, now they're like in home. Meals are ready for them, etc., etc. Their intent is no longer trip and journey. Their intent is study. They've set up a temporary home here and they're studying. Question number 3 from Brother Adnan in Dubai. Should we pray Tahiyatul Masjid at the Eid prayer place when we first arrive there? Tahiyatul Masjid. The Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, said, إِذَا دَخَلَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْمَسَاجِدِ فَلَا يَجْلِسْ حَتَّى يُصَلِّي رَكْعَتَيْنِ. If any of you enters a mosque, he should not sit down until he prays 2 units of prayer. This has been called Tahiyatul Masjid by later generations. Tahiyya means greeting, or greeting to the mosque. Of course, the Prophet never called it that, so whether you want to call it that or not, it's not an issue. I mean, that is not its name per se, but it may be a common name used by people. The point is that the Prophet instructed us before sitting, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, before sitting in a mosque, we should make 2 units of prayer. We should understand why. It is to put us in a frame of mind for worship. Because we enter the mosques, and we may be coming out of work or whatever circumstances, and we bring with us in our minds these other circumstances. When we go and we sit down, when we see somebody who we know, we may start talking about business and other things. So what we do when we first get in the mosque, before even sitting down, we make 2 units of prayer to put our minds in the proper frame. We're here to worship. So this is the general commandment for mosques. In the case of other areas, places which have been set aside for prayer, but they're not mosques. They're only temporary, perhaps, maybe on certain businesses, they set aside an area which people will pray because the nearest mosque is some distance away or something like this. It is not a requirement for one to make the 2 units of prayer there, though the principle of preparing oneself for mentally for worship, there is no harm if one decided to do that, but it is not a requirement. This is not a mosque per se. If it's in a business area or whatever, it's not a mosque. And in the case of the Eid prayer specifically, we are instructed not to make any prayers before the Eid prayer. We prayed the early morning prayer, Fajr, the 2 units of prayer before it, and the prayer itself. For the Eid prayer, we should not make any prayers before it. The Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, himself and his companions, did not do so. And this is specifically recorded that they never did it. So it means it is something that we should not do. We should not establish this as a practice. Otherwise, we are now making our own religion, in the sense that we are implying that we know better than the Prophet and his companions, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, which we don't. So one goes to the prayer place of Eid, which is an open area. You go and you sit down to wait until the Imam comes. You make the different prayers, voluntary prayers, which are done by saying the various prayers which have been taught in preparation for the Eid prayer. This is it. The fourth question from Brother Adnan: should a woman pray 4 units of compulsory prayer at home after Jumu'ah because Jumu'ah prayers are not compulsory on her? This is a practice which has developed in different countries, attributed to some schools of thought, specifically the Shafi'i school of thought, which was not really the teachings of the scholars of that school, where people, not even just women, but men also, after the Friday prayers, they go home and they pray, or they may pray even in the mosque, 4 compulsory prayers of Dhuhr. The argument for it, in terms of the general practice, and I'll do with the general practice before we go to the specific case of women, is that, and this developed in countries where Muslims were in a minority, the reasoning being is that for Jumu'ah, or the congregational prayer on Friday, to be considered valid, some schools of thought suggested that there should be a specific number, at least so many people. They gave different numbers. So if this number was not reached, then it was not really Friday prayer. You should pray Dhuhr. So in the doubts that arose amongst those in minority circumstances, where they weren't sure, is this number sufficient to constitute a Jumu'ah or not, they said we better pray Dhuhr afterwards to cover us, to make sure that we have covered both aspects of our responsibility. This, of course, is incorrect. One prays Jumu'ah, one doesn't pray Dhuhr. Similarly, now, in the case of a woman, simply because Jumu'ah, or the Friday congregational prayer, is not compulsory on her, if she joins it, she has joined it. It is considered the prayer. It takes the place of Dhuhr. If she stayed in her home, she would pray Dhuhr. If a man or woman comes late to the Friday prayer, that is, after the Imam has come out of ruku', out of the bowing, in the second unit of the prayer, they join after that. When the prayer is over, they must now stand and complete 4 units of prayer for Dhuhr. It's a very important point. Many people don't know this. They come to the mosque, the Imam is already sitting, for example. In the last sitting of the prayer, they join and they make tasleems, closing the prayer, saying Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum to both sides. And then they stand up and they only pray 2 units of prayer, thinking that they've missed Jumu'ah 2 units, so they're just going to pray 2 units. This is not correct. If you have missed the 2 units, you join too late in the prayer to catch even the second unit, then you now must pray 4 units of Dhuhr, not 2 units of Jumu'ah, because you're not praying Jumu'ah, you missed Jumu'ah. Similarly, if you came late after Taslim, you've come to the mosque, you must pray 4 units of Dhuhr. So in the case of the woman here, even though it was not compulsory on her, when she prayed Jumu'ah, that took the place of Dhuhr. There's no praying of Dhuhr afterwards. That would be incorrect. With that, dear viewers, I'd like to thank you for being with us on the program In the Light of Islam, and I hope to hear from you either through the mail, writing to me, Dr. Bilal Phillips, In the Light of Islam, Sharjah TV, P.O. Box 111, Sharjah, or by calling to me at the Islamic Information Center in Dubai, that is 358190. Thank you for being with us. We hope that you continue to benefit from the program and to follow it as it is broadcast. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Don't have to change the tape. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think so too. Okay.